Hey guys, what's happening? It's Jeff Saxton with another banger from the Lord to you and me. A lot of these words that I give or messages, I hope you guys understand that I never am pointing the finger at someone else and not applying it to my own life, including this one. So this particular word is definitely for me, as well as maybe someone else, maybe you. But it's really powerful, I think. You'll see as Jesus was living his life, on this earth, doing his ministry, about halfway through, we can read about what Jesus was doing and some of the really, really powerful, incredible miracles that he was doing, including raising somebody from the dead, a guy named Lazarus. And you may have heard that word. There's a song maybe in when you're a young person or child, you may have heard a song about Lazarus. I did. I always thought it was a little weird, but as I got older, then I began to understand. But Lazarus had two sisters named Mary and Martha. And they were considered some of Jesus' closest friends. And John, who writes the Gospel of John, refers to them as some of his closest friends. And we have the shortest verse in the Bible is actually regarding Christ crying for them. Jesus wept. The situation that happened that I want to talk about has to do with the word for today, which is distractions. Distractions. And distractions come to all of us. We all have a lot going on. And no one really can point at someone else and say, hey, you're being distracted from something more important. On the one hand, we can pray all day, and praying always seems like it's the most spiritual thing to do and the right thing to do. But I think it's more about what God has ordered for our days, in hours of each day. And when you're in a full-time ministry like I have been in for 3 decades plus, you kind of get into you feel like you're in a cycle, or you're in just a good pace, but it can also be a rut. So you have to be careful all the time to make sure you're not doing what I'm going to be talking about, which definitely I'm guilty of this more than one time. And that is when Jesus came to visit them in John 11, he came to see Mary and Martha. And so usually there was a big party and a lot of people came to the house of Mary and Martha, or one of the other disciples' homes when they were usually there. And it was a big group. It was basically their church. It was the church, but it wasn't just Jesus and the 12, because it was Jesus, the 12, and about, who knows, a couple dozen other people. So it was a pretty good-sized group. And they think they found one of the places where Jesus had these meetings with some of the disciples and other friends. Now, to be clear, this story is not about, it's really about Mary and Martha's home, because Jesus came to them. And so when that happens, you're the host, right? And so you really feel like, man, I better make things looking good around here, and I can relate to that. And that's exactly what Martha did. She thought, oh my gosh, we better get ready. We got to do this, we got to do that, we got to get the things, we got to clean this, we got to, plan the meals, we got to scrub the floors, on and on. And when Jesus showed up, and they didn't have a lot of an announcement, that was probably a little normal with Jesus. But of course, he did that on purpose for a reason. He was trying to always teach people lessons, right? But he comes into their home, and Jesus goes to talk we'll say the living room, another room. And Mary goes with him, and now Martha is in the kitchen area, whatever that looks like, and she's doing all the preparations, it says. And she's frustrated, and she says to Mary, what are you doing? We got to get all this stuff ready. And I can see myself saying to somebody, hey, come help me get everything ready so we can enjoy our time with our visitor here. Hopefully you do that before he arrives, though. Jesus is already there. But you expect Jesus to say something like, yeah, Mary, don't think about yourself. Go help your sister who's working hard, right? that wouldn't surprise me. Now, I mean, I am a guy, and so guys sometimes are more practical and not so much relational, right? So I can relate to this on that level too, right? But is that what Jesus said? No. If you read the text, chapter 11, Jesus actually tells Martha, hey, what are you doing, Martha? You're worried about all the distractions, all the preparations, but Mary has chosen the better choice. She's chosen to just not to do any of those, not even prepare, and be a good host, but to just spend time with me. Because I suppose you could say Jesus didn't have a lot of extra time with everyone. So anytime you get with Jesus is quality time, and they're probably thinking he's the most popular, the most important, the most primary person that you'd want to be ready to meet. I definitely think that. I still think that. I hope you think that too. And, I think that I'm getting better, okay? I'm better at recognizing distractions, but the things that distract me are usually all the good stuff that I do for God. And then I look back on my day and I'm like, well, but I didn't make the choice that was the best choice, which would have been to spend time with him first. Now I have habits now, so now I don't do that as much anymore. But back in my college days, I hadn't developed those daily devotion habits. But even now, once in a while, I still find myself, because it's not about devotions. You can have a prayer time, devotion time, and still later on throughout your day, there might be times where God's like, hey, just go for a walk and let's, just praise me for a little bit alone. Something like that, we might go, oh, but I can't. I'm so busy. And God understands that, and a lot of times that is the right choice, but sometimes that's the wrong choice. Apparently, this was the wrong choice for Martha. And so I think, we can get too much of a magnifying glass on this and really, really analyze it, hyper-analyze it, but at face value, there will be times where you and I need to make time for Christ, in our Christian life. And it might be some time where maybe we're supposed to take a day or two retreat. I've done that several times, and just take a weekend and just you and God, But my encouragement to you and myself is to take some of these times and take as many as you can, because interestingly enough, Jesus said, Mary made the better choice, and her choices will not be taken away from her. Almost to say, but you have wasted your time. You're just trying to make this place nice, and that's great. It's just that it won't last, into eternity. It's something that was good for here, and it's not a bad thing, The things that distract us in our spiritual life are always going to be not the bad things, but good things. As one of my pastors I used to work for always said, any good thing that becomes a God thing eventually is a bad thing, right? So any good thing, if it becomes a God thing, it's suddenly now a bad thing. And so it's easy to say, it's easy for me to tell you guys, hey, make sure you don't do this. Don't be distracted in your devotion to the Lord. And yet we all have these things come at us, And so a word to the wise is sufficient, as they say. I hope this is something that you get some inspiration out of. There's a lot of great stories about Mary and Martha in the New Testament, in the Gospel of John. And I've been going through John. I try to go through it at least once a year. I also am going through the Gospel of John, and I'll invite you to go with me through this during the Lent season. So Lent started a couple days ago, but if you want to, you can join me in walking through the entire Gospel of John for the next 40 days. Now we've got about 37 days until we come to Easter, right? So I did this last year and people loved it, so we're doing it again this year. If you want to go with us, go with me on this journey. And then each day, read a portion of the Gospel of John. No, it's not lined up like that. John doesn't have 40 chapters, but you can do maybe 2 each day, and then spend an extra day or 2 on the resurrection and, crucifixion, resurrection. All right, guys. Thanks so much. God bless you. Hope this ministered to you. And let's continue to make the best choice as much as we can. And if you've blown it, then just say, I blow it. Just say, God, forgive me. I missed it. I missed you. I don't want to do that. I want to make the right choice next time, and I want to have time with you and me. And it'll be awesome, and it'll be eternally lasting. And hey, that means it's the best, right? All right. Thanks a lot. God bless you.